Hello everyone, a Gemar Chasima Tova to all of you. I would like to share with you a story. It's a story of great adversity and victory. It's the story of a generation that faced one of the most horrible epidemics that humankind has ever experienced. It's the story of one unique Torah scholar, the French Rabbi Yaakov ben Shlomo Tzarfati, and his perseverance to teach Torah, to spread Torah, and serve Hashem in the face of great personal tragedy and the horrors that surrounded him. The lessons, the template, the model that Rabbi Yaakov became can teach us powerful lessons and inform our response as we face the most significant public health emergency in generations. His story can provide us with the greatest inspiration as we enter the holiest of days. The plague in question, much like our current epidemic, defied borders, destroyed cities, and caused massive destruction amongst the Ashkenazi Jewish communities. It changed them forever. I speak of the bubonic plague, or the Black Death. To this day, this bacterial disease is referred to simply as plague. The plague arrived in Europe in October 1347, when 12 ships from the Black Sea docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. The people gathered on the docks were met with a horrifying surprise. Most of the sailors aboard were dead. Those still alive were gravely ill and covered with black boils that oozed blood and pus. The sailors were taken to the hospital where they received adequate medical attention. Despite this treatment, they died within a few days. When the sailors were hurriedly buried in one of the churchyards, it seemed that the strange affair was over, but that was not to be. The sailors had brought the angel of death that would ravage Europe. To this day, the bubonic plague is considered the deadliest epidemic in history, killing an estimated 30 million people, a quarter to a half of Europe's population. The consequences were disastrous. Whole villages disappeared from the map, and piles of corpses, bodies, lined the roads across the continent. Nobles, serfs, peasants, and priests, no one was spared. Churches filled up with crowds who came to pray for salvation, exasperating the spread of the epidemic. After failing to cure the disease with chickens and cats, I'm not joking, you can actually look this up, Europe turned to blaming their Jewish neighbors. Rumors began to spread that the Jews were the cause of this disease. Not a few confessed and pled guilty after arrest and brutal torture. In the French city of Chambray, one of the torturers proclaimed that the Jews of Toledo and their rabbi had sent packets of poison to Jews in various countries. He also reported that they had prepared dried snakes, frogs, and scorpions to add to the bread that Christians used for communion or to throw into their city's water supplies. Once this plot was exposed, cities started campaigns to kill their Jews. In Basel, a city with about 600 Jews, the entire community was burned to death inside a wooden building. In Strasbourg, Jews were forced to gather in a cemetery and burned to death in a wooden shed when they refused to renounce their faith. In cities along the Rhine, riots broke out and Jews were burned to death. In Mainz, however, the Jews rose to defend themselves. They gathered weapons and managed to kill hundreds. In the end, however, they were subdued and massacred by the city's Christian inhabitants. Pope Clement VI attempted to protect the Jews and issued a decree absolving them of any guilt regarding the plague. He also published bulls against attacks on the Jews and rejected the libellous accusations made against them. The Pope specifically vilified those who wanted to kill Jews to rid themselves of their debts. Additionally, he pointed out that both Jews and non-Jews were dying of this disease, including those non-Jews living in towns or locations without any Jewish inhabitants at all. At that time, the Pope resided not in the Vatican, but in Avignon, in France. Due to the Pope's influence, this was one of the few places in Europe where Jews were truly safe from the roving bands of flagellants whipping themselves and the town inhabitants into a religious, murderous frenzy. One of those Jews who took refuge in this city was a man by the name of Shlomo Tzarfati. He survived the first wave of the Black Death and then fled to the area under the Pope's protection. It was there that his son Yaakov was born. In addition to learning Torah, Yaakov studied medicine and calligraphy. He wrote Jewish books like the one entitled Yeshuos Yaakov, which addresses the plagues in Egypt and the nature of miracles. He also studied Safros, the art of Jewish penmanship and calligraphy, and penned a beautiful illuminated machzor. Married, he had several children. Rabbi Yaakov also began writing an ornate, illustrated Haggadah that included notes about Jewish life in Provence, where he lived. In 1382, while he was still working on the Haggadah, the plague reappeared and blanketed Europe with death once again. Hundreds died in his city, the city of Avignon, and thousands across southern France. Rabbi Yaakov himself was covered with the dreaded black buboes and hovered between life and death for months. When he recovered in the autumn of 1382, he learned that his son Yisroel died of the plague. Soon, his youngest daughter, Sarah, was also taken by the disease, only 1 year after her wedding. Not 30 days later, his second daughter, Esther, took ill. Upon her death, Rabbi Yaakov wrote a book called the Avel Rabbati, or Great Mourning, describing the pain of losing a child. He wrote, "Because of the plague, I will be in pain for the remainder of my days. Even Shabbos and Yom Tov are days of mourning and weeping as I write amid my tears." Rabbi Yaakov mourned for his 3 children, but maintained his emunah, his faith in God. His daughter's death, he declared, was a decree from Hashem. Even though he was a physician, his medical knowledge was to no avail. He wrote, "I accept the pain with love because it comes from God. He is the one who directed the plague and commanded who will live and who will die." He took comfort in the fact that he and the rest of his family survived the disease and the anti-Semitic riots. Rabbi Yaakov Tzarfati, at that time, completed his beautiful illuminated Haggadah, which included some of the laws of Pesach and notes about the minhagim, the practices of the provincial Jews. When he came to the page that deals with the 10 plagues, the grieving father included the plague that he had personally experienced. That said, he also took comfort in the nachas of his remaining children and the fact that the community he was living in was slowly recovering, reclaiming the glory of its past, of its earlier days. It's important to note, Rabbi Yaakov Tzarfati at that time, when faced with incredible personal challenges, personal tragedy, completed his Haggadah. He didn't give up. He didn't throw his hands up in despair. He said to himself, I will continue teaching the world Torah and beautifying mitzvos. Rabbi Yaakov Tzarfati's Haggadah is a painful reminder of the tragedies that befell humanity in the Middle Ages, and is one of the oldest Haggadahs around today. It's called in the academic world the Wolf Haggadah. This almost 700-year-old manuscript of 36 pages can be found today in Jerusalem. It has traveled through the ages, survived many centuries of war, pogroms, the Nazis, and the communism of the former USSR to appear shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's a testament to Jewish tenacity and a physical embodiment of our perseverance. Its pages, stained with what may be water or tears, and others that may be wine or blood, stands as a testimony to the strength and the determination of Rabbi Yaakov and the Jewish people as a whole. Rabbi Yaakov did not give up in the face of extreme loss. He persevered. He continued to teach. He continued to write Torah and beautify mitzvos. The Haggadah stands as a reminder that though we have suffered, we are still here, we still persevere, and we have never given up. Rabbi Yaakov exemplified the inner strength that all of us Jews have. We continue to exist today with a wealth of culture, art, and scholarship due to people like him, our ancestors. We are all children, descendants of people who, like Rabbi Yaakov, found the internal resolution to continue and perpetuate our Yiddishkeit in the face of death, sickness, and anti-Semitism. We too now can rise to the occasion, persevere, and surmount the challenges that COVID-19 throws at us. It's in our blood. But let's examine in what manner have we overcome trials and catastrophe in the past. Well, in the case of Rabbi Yaakov, we did this by continuing to beautify mitzvos, like his illuminated machzor and Haggadah. We perpetuated the teaching of Torah and exemplifying a steadfast devotion and faith in God. How will we live up to his and all of our progenitors' example? Please consider increasing your pledge to the 2020 Congregation Sons of Israel annual Kol Nidre appeal. By donating funds to the synagogue, you assure that the proper repairs to the building are performed and improved, and maintaining a beautiful structure. This is how we can beautify mitzvos. Contributions that are given to the shul go to ensuring that Torah is taught to young and old alike. And finally, you proclaim your faith in God and the commitment to Jewish survival by ensuring that minyanim continue and that the lights stay lit. In the past, we rose to the occasion, and we can do so again. The shul needs you. The Jewish people need you. In order to ensure that we remain for another 700 years like the Haggadah of Rabbi Yaakov Tzarfati, we need to put our money where our mouth is and put in that effort, that drive to ensuring that our shul remains here for future generations. To perpetuate the Jewish people, we need you. In order to say that to our Jewish grandchildren and our great-grandchildren that we rose to the occasion, we did everything that we could to ensure that there was a continuity of the Jewish community, that people still observed Torah and kept mitzvos. We kept our unique observance of God's law. The shul needs your help to survive, to rise to the occasion, to live up to the example that Rabbi Yaakov Tzarfati left for all of us, is to A, not give up in the face of adversity, and persevere, do what needs being done. With this, I wish you a Gemar Chasima Tova, a concluding judgment for peace, health, wealth, and all fantastic things.